Following the signing of the armistice in November 1918, the British Navy, Army and Air Force commenced the demobilisation process. Over the following months, hundreds of thousands of men and women would leave their units and hang up their uniforms for the last time. As they headed back to their civilian lives, many would face years of uncertainty. There were plenty who'd been promised to return to their jobs when they enlisted in 1914 and early 1915, only to return and find that those jobs had mysteriously disappeared and been given to somebody else. So for many, the prospect was nothing but unemployment. In fact, some preferred to join the army and re-enlist, but that wasn't an option for everybody. There were many who needed to return to look after their families. And for many, that unemployment stretching on years into the future was absolutely devastating for those who'd been promised a land fit for heroes. Many would find themselves begging on street corners. Some would sell matches, and others would sell these little cards or sheets with verses on. This particular one, "The Men Who Manned the Guns," has verses like, "While risking their lives in khaki, fighting their country's foes, what were their thoughts of the future? Not starvation or misery, God knows. They were promised a better England, comfort after the strife. What a rude awakening to come back to this miserable life." At the top of this card it says, "Can you give this ex-serviceman a job or help him by buying this card?" And it's headed, "A Disabled Soldier's Appeal." "I heard my country calling in those darkened years of strife, and at once returned the answer, risking health and limb and life." And it goes on to say, "I fought for truth and freedom. In truth, to starve I'm free. A slacker's standing in my job, there is no work for me. O merry, merry England, O land for heroes fit. Is this how promises are kept to those who've done their bit?" Understandably quite bitter. And as I say, these were sold for a penny or a donation on street corners, but in reality, this is nothing more than a receipt for begging. It really is. Of course, there were some soldiers who had transferable skills, stuff that they'd learnt in the army or skills they already had, which would help them earn a bit of a living. You may remember last year around this time, we told you the story of George Hood. And George had joined the 1st Volunteer Battalion of the Suffolk Regiment in 1899 as a drummer in the band, and was still a drummer all the way through the Edwardian period, through the First World War, into the 20s. And George did have a transferable skill, and he was able to perform on street corners with his one-man band.